Hi, my name is Joanne. Welcome back to my channel. Look, I realised I didn't give you a rundown of the last day of the Barilaro Google hearing because yesterday they did their summing up, and the judge has gone away to consider his decision. Now, there's a few things that have concerned me about the action, what's happened yesterday. But I want to just look at the media responses to that. So this is the ABC. Now, first of all, the judge is actually considering referring Google for contempt of court now, and that's over the one with the ICAC allegation in there. So it says a judge has said he was dumbfounded by the behaviour of Google in John Barilaro's defamation case and is considering referring the technology giant for contempt of court charges. Former New South Wales Deputy Premier is suing Google for refusing to take down online videos that he claimed were vulgar and offensive, despite multiple complaints to the tech giant from his legal team. The videos were published by popular comedian commentator John Shanks, known as Funny Geordies. He settled an action and he apologised and edited some of the content. Now, for me, in my opinion, if the edited content has gone up, then there's no problem. We know that in the Tati Westbrook Without a Crystal Ball defamation hearing that they actually got those, well, we assume that those videos were taken down because that's what Katie Joy said, the videos had to be removed. So I don't understand why, if Barilaro found all of those videos offensive, why he didn't ask for them to be taken down. Again, my opinion. Because he could have said to Shanks, take them down. We've got an issue here that, well, as I said, there was a case where Google, a third party, can be deemed liable for stuff put on there. So it says, Mr. Barilaro claimed the videos portrayed him as a con man who made a fortune from dodging dealings, including racial slurs, and referenced the MP's attempt. In the final days of defamation hearing, Justice Stephen Rez launched a scathing attack on Google for sitting back while Mr. Shanks said video after video taunting Mr. Barilaro. He was concerned that Google had not removed the video posted last year that accused Mr. Barilaro's legal team of incompetence and dishonesty. Now, that is also the video that has the ICAC allegations in there. And if you remember rightly, well, in fact, Google has stated that the fact that there was this ICAC, his testimony of ICAC was questioned, and then there were newspaper articles talking about a relationship in that was enough for Google to deem the video to be able to be put on there, because he did his testimony in ICAC, and the footage showed actual ICAC, showed his testimony from ICAC, and then showed various newspaper articles relating to a relationship. Now, Google has stated that as long as you show evidence to back up information, then it's, they can deem it to be credible, even though they're allegations. Remember, they're allegations. It's not factual. It looks like a very serious, likely finding of contempt by publication designed to intimidate lawyers from acting, therefore stopping Mr. Barilaro's access to justice. Shanks was quite determined to frustrate justice, of course, to get his point that his lawyers wouldn't want to appear with him. In court, his lawyers conceded that videos had caused significant harm. He said videos broke him, caused him to consider self-harm. Distressed the number of occasions during the defamation. He appeared distressed during the number of occasions. As he listened to a final day of evidence, Mr. Barilaro at one point became upset and excused himself from the courtroom. His lawyer argued that his client deserved damages of the highest order because his case was probably the most extreme example of damage to reputation. She submitted that Google's decision to rely on rubbish defences for 7 months to only withdraw them without explanation this week, and he served to aggravate the damage. He urged Justice Rez not to take any possible contempt into consideration when it came to damages. He argued that Google was only liable for harm for the period after Mr. Barilaro complained and not from the time the videos were uploaded. So this is the thing. And don't forget also that Google technically would be liable from the time the edited videos have been done. I think they worked out that for the time that Google was liable, for example, there was like 108,000 views, where most of the views occurred before Google was liable. Today, Justice Reyes accused Google of wasting court's time and Mr. Barilaro's money. There's a duty under federal court to cooperate. If this was uncontested, this could have been heard last year. The hearing is now adjourned while he considers his judgment. So this comes back to, this is all coming back to money. So we know that Google's going to pay. But I've got a couple of concerns. Barilaro's barrister, Sue Chrysanthu, was asking that His Honour puts in an injunction to stop Google from allowing any video about Mr. Barilaro to go up. Now, Google pointed out that is virtually, or anything defamatory about Mr. Barilaro. That's a huge task when you consider that you've got the Google search engine that they own. So that means that if a newspaper article put, Barilaro's ICAC question, Barilaro's comes under question during ICAC hearing or something, every time they post a headline on their Google search, they could be liable. If anyone does a video that says anything bad about Barilaro, they could be liable. And I think that is very dangerous territory, because that's going to put Barilaro in as somebody that's untouchable. And I don't think that that's correct. I don't think that that's fair. And at what point should, and don't forget, YouTube, as he said, is a public forum, a public space. Anybody can put anything up about anything. Now, Barilaro apparently had to leave the court yesterday when they were talking about the video that was up about the ICAC investigation and the lawyers, and he gets very apparently upset about the thing that he could have misled ICAC. But we know from media headlines that ICAC are looking at him on a completely different matter. That's what the newspapers are reporting. So there is some questions about alleged behaviour. There is some questions that need to be answered regarding his conduct. And we know the other day that Parliament, New South Wales Parliament, has called for an investigation into the Fixated Persons Unit against Shanks and Christo. If that all leads to Barilaro, then everything that has happened would have been justified. I'm sorry, you can't make politicians, untouchable, and you can't make people in public office untouchable. We're here to call out people's behaviour, call out error. The other thing that was interesting was it was pointed out in court that there's also Twitter, there's also lots of stuff on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook about Barilaro. And Google went to pains to say, well, we're not responsible for those, that they're owned by different people. They're not our platforms. So there is talk of them doing separate actions against, well, Facebook. I mean, Meta owns Instagram, but you know what I mean. So if they're going to go after every social media platform, then Barilaro is going to be untouchable, in my opinion. And I think we're really on shaky ground here. Do I agree with how Friendly Joys went about it? No. But I agree to his right to be able to question a politician. The other interesting thing is that Justice Reyes said, but when Barilaro gave his ICAC testimony, he wasn't a politician and not a public figure. But it related to stuff that happened when he was. You just can't make somebody untouchable because they're no longer in the job that they had, and they can't be now held responsible for their past behaviour. So there was quite a few things that concerned me about that yesterday, and some big you know, I think if there is a contempt motion, I think Google may appeal it. I'd be appealing injunction, and there is also there was also big argument over whether apparently His Honour has the right to go over the cap for damages, but whether he can do, because there's two causes of action, the argument is whether damages can be, whether the cap can be breached in two courses of action, or whether you go to the one and then hit the cap. So there may be an appeal. If I was Google, I'd appeal. I'd be preparing appeals, because, as I said, there would be enough things in law, the contempt action, which means that, Google's either going to have to tighten up their policy on YouTube. Videos won't be able to be uploaded immediately. They will have to go through a process more than what they are now. Could you imagine if people had to actually physically watch every video when it was uploaded? I mean, that's the way we're going to have to be going. That's the way we're going to be going. And at the end of the day, and Google's been treated like a mass media publication. There's this whole discussion whether it's a publication or whether it's just a media, because we know it's just not media. People do how-to videos, and they do all sorts of things on it. You've been free to be able to put essentially what you want on YouTube. So I've got some concerns about what this outcome means, and I know what the law states, but my whole issue about the settlement with Shanks and Barilaro is that if he found the videos, the edited versions, still offensive, then he should have settled to have the videos removed. That would have been the thing. The other thing that really alarmed me was that Barilaro gave in his evidence that he wanted to settle with Google, but his lawyers talked him out of it, which I find to be very, very fascinating. And his barrister actually said that they did talk him out of it. And so I'm going through, I wonder why they talked him out of it. Yes, he was probably going to win, but if your client is so distressed and so upset by the action and wants it to end, it's your job to make life as easy as possible for them to get the result that they want. He could have settled with Google. He could have settled with Google in December, January, and it could have been water under the bridge. He could have moved on with life. But, because they encouraged him to keep going, I've got to wonder whether for them they're hearing dollar signs. Now, remember, and this is fact, this has been reported, and we know that there's just an appealing process, that Sue Crithanth, who was representing Christian Porter over the defamation with the ABC. The alleged victim was friends with another person who had sought legal advice from Sue Crithanth. So there was a conflict of interest, an injunction that was put in to prevent Sue Crithanth from representing Mr. Porter in that case, and her and Sue Crithanth and Mr. Porter have to pay $400,000 to a client. That's now in an appeal process. I'm not alleging. Please don't take this as fact. I'm not alleging. My little brain's just ticking over. Whether or not, and I'm not accusing them of misconduct. I'm not accusing anyone of anything. But I go, maybe this is why would you extend that? If my client was so distressed and wanted it over and done with, most lawyers and most of the stuff that I see in my stuff would say settle, get to an agreement. he could have asked Google to remove the videos or whatever it was. And I believe those, there would have been a financial thing, and it could have all been done. They could have all lived happily ever after. But my little mind's just wondering, why would you, unless, and here's the other thing. Okay, so he gets all this money. That, A, is not going to restore his reputation. B, it's not going to make him happy. C, it's not going to stop things from happening, particularly if ICAC is sniffing around. Money doesn't buy happiness. And some of the stuff, if you do questionable stuff in Parliament and people report on it, then, in my opinion, a lot of his own actions has destroyed his reputation. And despite he had 6 witnesses that said he was a wonderful person, I can find 6 people. I can find people in that area that didn't like him, didn't think, And don't forget, he did say that he was he did do pork barreling. He did talk about he was pork barrelaro. You referred to him that. Don't forget that he was ruthless and vicious in his role as a politician. Don't forget that he called Helen Dalton a vile human. All of his actions, all of his defamatory stuff, and all the stuff that appeared in Sheets's videos where there was questionable behaviour, was overlooked and was stated as untrue. We all know that we've seen the tweet where he said, "You're a vile, disgusting human" to Helen Dalton. Media has picked up on it. But apparently it's okay for him to do that, because that was in the course of his job as a politician. Anyway, I just unfortunately just see what money can do, and I'm a little bit disappointed that Google didn't fight it. I really would have liked to have seen them really have taken it to him. But I think at the end of the day, they figured that it would be easier and more cost. I think Google at the end of the day just went, let's just pay him out. It's going to be cheaper. The other thing that really disturbed me was the fact that Barilaro's barrister, she would raise her voice and she would yell. And there was no need for it. I don't know why you would need to yell or raise your voice or shout or anything in court to try and get your point across. In fact, the 3 court cases that I've watched of her where she's been in that's what she does. And I've seen the other barristers just talk very silently, really calmly, really nicely. And I have to say, I find the yelling and the shouting really triggering. And I switch off, I shut down. So she might have good stuff to say, but I'm not listening. Whereas I'm really happy to listen to really calm and more interested in listening to somebody that's going to speak calmly and rationally. But again, if you have to yell and shout to get your point across, then maybe you're not delivering it very well, in my opinion. And remember that people get triggered by that. But yeah, so it looks like at this stage, Barilaro's going to get a large payment. It all depends on legislation and what the law states. But whether he issues injunctions or contempt is all still in question. But as I said, the injunction to stop Google from publishing anything what's defamatory? If there's a newspaper article, if there's media articles about something, that allegations, because you're supposed to report if you're reporting something and then you're making a video about what's been reported, are they going to, how do you make that liable? I think, I just don't know. And that was Google's concern, is how on earth do you police that? How do you stop Google from allowing anything about Barilaro to go up? You do Barilaro now, and you see, let's just do this. Let's just Google John Barilaro, just for fun. So we're going to go in and do a Google search, because essentially This is my concern. All right, so we can put in John Barilaro. Friendly Geordie's considering John Barilaro 16 hours ago. Judge considers referring John Barilaro. John Barilaro, Wikipedia. There is Executive Director of Coronation Parliament. So resigns. And then, so essentially anything that portrays him in a bad light. So at the moment, everything's okay here. Monaro, John Barilaro MP. But if there isn't a headline, so if a Friendly Geordie's video goes up, so here's the other thing as well. Here's my other issue is that they said that that video with the Ashley Madison and ICAC didn't come out and make allegations. It was up in the air. I really thought that that was the point of doing reporting, is that you report the facts and you let people make up your own mind. I thought that was the whole point. You go fact, fact, fact. Oh mind, whatever. And then, you let the people go, but apparently no. So anyway, that's all I want to say on this. And anyway, thank you for watching. I hope that you'll, hit like and subscribe so that you can get the next lot. We'll see what happens. We now have to wait until the judge makes his decision. As I said, he's going to have to go over and read all the cases that have been quoted. There's been lots of cases that were quoted yesterday. See what he can do within the law, statutory stuff, common law stuff. It'll take him a while. We know that there will be damages, just how much, and whether there's an injunction or anything is still yet to be determined. But I'll be there as soon as it comes to light. I'll be there and we'll read what his decision is. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and bye for now.